This is a very losable game for Texas A&M. And if you think this is the kind of game where A&M can go out there and stretch a lead or walk all over them, you're dead wrong. The season is broken up into two halves by a week 7 bye week, which is rare. It's like perfectly in the middle of your season. So you get like a halftime to the season. And I am here to suggest that A&M will have their season defined by this bye week, if not before it. Let me explain. So A&M starts the season off with a bit of a ramp up. They start with FCS recent champion Sam Houston State. I want to see A&M execute. I want to see lineups being set. I want to see rotations being found. Pretty much all the things you would hope for from an early tune-up game, of which you get two. The second one is App State at home. I remember it. You remember it. The Michigan game, what was it, 2006, 2007? App State has upset several teams over the years since then, and is never an opponent to be taken lightly, but A&M out-talents them significantly. It's at home. A&M still has everything to play for. I don't foresee it happening in week 2. I think A&M gets another tune-up opportunity, and you just want to see that happen. You want to see the starters go out there, take care of business, find some rhythm, find some identity. Identity is a major theme this half of the season, which I'll talk about in a second. But A&M usually needs to go out there and continue to figure themselves out, get the reps in, because the season is coming in hot and fast for the next 4 weeks. The rest of the season, it's an SEC slate from here on out, plus Miami and UMass. But, I mean, at this point, once you've completed the App State game, you're fighting for your life. I mean, that's it. You are in it because you have Miami coming to College Station on a late Saturday night at 8 p.m., a true night game. Kyle Field will be rocking. But it is a true test. More so than a test, it's a challenge. This is a very losable game for Texas A&M. And if you think this is the kind of game where A&M can go out there and stretch a lead or walk all over them, you're dead wrong. Miami is a legit team. They have a legit offense. They have the kind of quarterback that can keep them in games versus superior teams. He's going to find open receivers. He's going to throw guys open. He has a great arm, Tyler Van Dyke, and he's the kind of quarterback that scares you when there's a talent deficiency here. A&M will be more talented, but a quarterback like that can be the great equalizer. So I'd like to see the offense find some carryover from those first 2 games, come into this game with momentum, and get the ball rolling, because I have a feeling they're going to score with a quarterback like that. They lose their top receiver, but got a bunch of other guys back. They should be very formidable in the passing game. So we'll see what happens. It's a game that I'm not going to pick every game, but it's a game that I would pick A&M to win right now. But I am really hoping for this key factor, that A&M has found an identity going into the next 3 games. I think you have 3 games to find your identity. And talk about identity. That 2020 game versus Florida, after A&M got blasted by Alabama the week before. A&M was going back and forth with Florida, and then all of a sudden in the third quarter, Florida gained momentum. And they scored a few unanswered points. And A&M fielded the kickoff, got a penalty on the kickoff, and we're back down to their 10-yard line, somewhere in that range. That stadium went silent. You could hear a pin drop in there. There was like a noticeable energy in that arena in Kyle Field that, oh no, is this about to happen? Are we about to lose 2 in a row before this season really gets going? We lost our production. We had some deep balls early, but things have slowed down. What are we going to do? What's going to happen? Very uneasy feeling. That uneasy fan feeling that everyone has felt before. And then all of a sudden, A&M's offensive line chomped down on those mouth guards. Isaiah Spiller locked in, and they ran it down the gullet like a 90-yard drive. I would say if there were 15 plays, 14 of them were running with Spiller with counters or up the middle, just anything. Spiller, left, Spiller, right, offensive line, gaping holes through that defense. A&M found their identity. We knew that that was how A&M was going to win football games, by running it up the gut, leaning on your steady, reliable quarterback in Kellen Mond, but just really playing behind that offensive line, and that's how A&M was going to produce on offense. The Maroon Goons were born. That's what happened. So will A&M have that kind of moment before this Miami game or during the Miami game? For sure, we would want that to happen before the Arkansas game. I think you have a 3 to 4, really just a 3 game stretch for A&M to find their identity. Because let's face it, when you lose playmakers that were as steady as Isaiah Spiller and Weidemeyer for the most part, because he had some troubles in his third year for whatever reason, but he was a steady safety valve for the team for years, for 3 years. So he and Spiller are a huge chunk of A&M's production. I mean, we know that. It was Spiller, it was Anais Smith, it was Weidemeyer, it was A-Chain, a little bit of Chase Lane on those clutch plays, but those were the guys. And you're losing most of that. Well, you're losing half of that. But I would say you're losing the most important two in terms of steady heartbeat. Because we know what A-Chain can do. We know what he will produce. 7.5 yards per carry speaks for itself, or whatever it is. It's somewhere in the sevens. It's a lot of yards per carry. He had 901 yards rushing, or was it total yards? He had 901, I think it was total yards last year as a backup. We know he's going to produce. He's a big play guy. But I would argue that he's not necessarily an every down back. He's pretty dang close to it. But 3rd and 1, what are you doing? Are you running it up the gut? Are you doing the Maroon Goon thing? Are you doing zone read with Haynes? I'm guessing it's Haynes. I don't know yet. When this is being filmed, we don't know who the quarterback is. I'm assuming it's Haynes. I think it's Haynes. But are we doing zone read? Are we doing outside stuff? I mean, what are we doing? What's our 3rd and 1 go-to? Is it A-Chain up the gut? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it is. Is there someone else you can run up the gut? You going outside? I think we need to find answers like that. What's your go-to? What's the most effective strategy for pushing this offense forward? I don't know. And I don't think anybody really knows. I think we're hoping for more big plays. I think we're expecting more big plays, but is that going to be what wins the games for Texas A&M? Big play machine? Or is there going to be some steady heartbeat kind of stuff they're going to have to find, like they had with Isaiah Spiller and Jalen Wademeyer? I mean, Anais Smith can be looped into there. He's back. He's going to be reliable. Hands have gotten better every year. I see him becoming kind of a safety valve kind of guy out of that slot receiver position. So Evan Stewart, big play guy. But who's that steady heartbeat? I want to find out what the Texas A&M identity is by the time you're heading into Arlington versus Arkansas for that revenge game. And Arkansas is good again. They have transfer portal receivers. KJ Jefferson's back. A lot of the running backs are back. They're going to have like a 3-man rotation at running back again. By all reports, even though they're losing Burks, who was just a huge threat for them last year at receiver, these guys are filling in for him very nicely. The transfers they got in this last offseason. So, I mean, I look for the defense to be pretty secure by this time in the year. I haven't really spoken much defensively because I have less questions there. I do think that secondary is going to allow that defensive line to have the opportunity to find themselves in those first 2 to 3 weeks. I don't have many questions about that defensive line. The starting 4 should be pretty ridiculous, and then the depth should be pretty dang talented. But that'd be the big question mark on defense. I expect that to be found by then. I believe A&M could probably hold them to 20 points again, which is what they did last year and couldn't win. That game was so painful. You just think about that Arkansas game, it hurts. The ball bouncing off of Bryce Foster's helmet to end the game, oh my gosh, it's so brutal. So I have a feeling the players feel the same way. I like having that spark of a revenge game. I don't know how much that actually means. I don't know how much like these motivation things mean, like revenge games or revenge factor. I feel like you go hard every single game in college football if you're a college athlete, but at least that's there. It could be the spark to just really lock the team in. Same goes for the next week at Mississippi State. Another revenge game. I would argue that Mississippi State game was the most embarrassing and painful loss last season. I mean, at home, at Kyle Field, packed house, lose the game in such a painful fashion, the way the game ended, just pain. And I think the team remembers that because I know I remember it. I'm sure you remember it. We're just fans. I'm sure the team remembers it too. I'm sure those experienced guys, the starters, remember that feeling. So I look for that revenge factor to be a advantage, but I don't think it's really a factor that can win a game for you. I think it's just nice to have it. It gives you a little bit maybe focus to start the game, but I feel like once you get that first hit, it's all bang bang and it's all you're just locked in. You're autopilot at that point. And then the big one at Alabama. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've rewatched 2012 A&M upsetting Alabama in Tuscaloosa with Johnny. I've probably watched that 4 times this month, just visualizing. But I mean, it's such a big game. It's the off-season talks, the Nick Saban revenge factor, and I'm okay with if you say there's a revenge factor for Nick Saban because A&M beat them last year. A&M beat Nick Saban, and Nick Saban doesn't lose a lot of regular season games, especially to A&M, not for the last 10 years, since the first year in the SEC. So, yeah, I'm sure there's a revenge factor there. But if you're saying there's a revenge factor because of what was said in the offseason, the whole Jimbo Saban back and forth, Saban wants revenge, but I think Jimbo wants revenge too. Because Jimbo attacked Saban, but Saban went after Jimbo's players. He said A&M bought every single player. And when you say that, it's going to be taken out of context regardless of what you meant. You're going to say that the institution that is Texas A&M purchased these players, and that's why they're at Texas A&M. That's what we hear when you just say that. And I mean, whatever you meant, that's what you said. So in saying that, you delegitimize those players' choices to go to A&M. You delegitimize A&M as a destination, and you delegitimize the countless hours and money that the Texas A&M program and staff put into the recruiting trail every year, whether it's scouting, visits, events, everything. A&M has one of the highest recruiting budgets in the country. I think it's only behind Georgia, something like that. It's like Georgia had the most and A&M was right there. But you're delegitimizing all of that. And it's the whole I'm a man, I'm 40 thing. It's like, go after me. When you go after my players, that's when I take an issue. And that's, I think, why Jimbo jumped on the mic the next morning. Jimbo talked about Saban. They're men. They've worked together. Saban can take that. But Saban went at Jimbo's players. And I don't know about y'all, but if I'm a coach, that's going to set me off. And I'm going to take major issue to that. So Saban wants revenge, but Jimbo really wants revenge as well. So I think that works both ways. And whatever revenge means. I mean, how much harder are they really going to play in a game if it's a revenge game? You're playing Alabama. You're playing Texas A&M. It's a huge matchup. Everybody's focused. Everybody's going to be like floating to start that game until the first hit sets in. That game's going to be surreal. Those players know how big a game it is. It's a huge game. So, yeah, it's going to be huge. Alabama's so good. They're deep with upperclassmen. A&M is deep with freshmen. I think Alabama should be the betting favorite in that game. And if I'm betting, that's a game A&M loses. It's not impossible that A&M could win it, but if I'm betting my salary, I have to say A&M is probably not the favorite this game. I'd have to bet against A&M. I think if they were to play later in the year and those freshmen get more experience, it's a whole other story. But halfway through the year, before the bye week, I mean, at Alabama, you have to give them the edge, and it has to be a somewhat significant edge, maybe a touchdown edge. I don't foresee a blowout in any way. I don't think people are saying A&M's going to get destroyed by Alabama. I just don't see that happening. A&M believes they did it last year. They're talented. They're well coached, and they know what they want. They know that last year left a horrible taste in their mouths, and they're ready to push forward this year. So yeah, 4 games to define the season: Miami, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Alabama. A&M needs to have found an identity at some point in that Miami game or before it, in my opinion, for the season not to be derailed. Because you're going to know. You're going to know what the season is by the bye week. A&M, I mean, there's a world where A&M wins all those games. But there's definitely a world where A&M loses all 4 of those games. It's possible. It's probably more likely that they win them all. But I am saying it is highly likely that they're going to not make it through that unscathed. That is a tough stretch. I mean, that Mississippi State game, if it weren't for the revenge factor, that is a trap game if I have ever seen one. You got your ramp up, Miami, Arkansas, at Mississippi State, then at Alabama, and then you get your bye week. It is the cream of a poisoned Oreo. It's like it's right there. But the revenge factor, I think, in that kind of situation, I know I'm just using this revenge factor to my advantage at this point. After I said what is it, what is really a revenge factor, how does that equate to a game? But I'm going to say it again because I don't care. A revenge factor may help A&M focus up a little bit for that game, not look past it because everyone's going to remember how that felt. But that's all I wanted to say. The season is, I mean, be ready. As fans, we're going to be like puckered down in our seats from week 3. I mean, you're not going to leave your couch. You're going to be stuck on your couch every week for the first month and a half of the season. That is I mean, it's going to be fun, but it's going to be brutal. Get your heart medication out. It's going to be crazy. Good luck.